Hey there, comic book community. My name is Joe, and you're watching 360 Comics. You may remember a couple of videos ago, I bought a high-grade Bronze Age collection full of a ton of keys, as well as a couple of bangers like the first appearance of Black Cat and the first comic book appearance of Rocket Raccoon. Well, at the end of that exchange, that seller let me know that there was more where that came from, and he got in contact with me this week, and we did another exchange. There's some great stuff to come, so stick around. Every day we're moving closer and closer to our giveaway goal of 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube, so you want to make sure you enter before it's too late. The prize on the line this time is Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars #1. It's a first printing, it's high grade, and it's got that Galactus color error in it. If you want to win this book, all you have to do, subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up for a like, and leave a comment down below. That gives you one entry, and you can check out our other videos from the month of May and the month of June for additional entries. Make sure you ring that bell for notifications so you know when new videos come out. As mentioned, this collection came from a seller who I have previously dealt with before. We had a good experience a couple weeks back, which is why he reached out again. Now, the first time we met up, he brought about 80 or so comic books. This time was a lot more, probably close to 200, so more than double. And the first time was like a mix of Hulk, Spider-Man, and then some other stuff thrown in. This time was entirely Amazing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and X-Men, and there were some really nice keys in there that I'm going to show you in just a second. If you want to check out the first video, I'm going to put the link down below. You don't need to watch them in any certain order, so finish this video up and then go check out what I got in that batch. We'll kick things off with some Amazing Spider-Man keys, two of which I'm actually going to save for the end of this video because they are the bigger keys in this batch of comics. But first up, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 209, and this is the first appearance of Calypso, the love interest of Kraven the Hunter. And this has always kind of been a mid-level key, a decent one to pick up, but recently it's certainly gotten a lot hotter. About a year or so ago, we heard that Sony was in works on a Kraven the Hunter movie, and this started to kind of peak up in interest at that point, given the connection between Calypso and Kraven the Hunter. Now, that being said, we have since then gotten more news on the casting of the Calypso character, so that seems like it is definitely going to happen, and this book has shot up even more in price, and it's just a good key to have as well, a mid-level Spider-Man key from the Bronze Age. Moving on is a book that I have had on my spec radar for a while. Amazing Spider-Man 212, the first appearance of Hydro Man. This is a book that spiked up a couple years ago when it looked like Hydro Man was going to be in Spider-Man Far From Home, the Mysterio movie, but it turns out that that was just an illusion created by Mysterio, not actually Hydro Man. It was this big water elemental thing, if you remember. I think this is a character that definitely could be utilized, and this can be picked up for like $25, $30 in a high grade. So even the 9/8s are only like in the like $300 to $350 range. So I think this is a great book. I've said it before. I have a bunch of copies, and this one is going to stay in my spec box. Next up, we're skipping up to 229. This is the first book of a two-issue arc between Spider-Man and the Juggernaut. It's called Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut. It's got this awesome cover right here, and the second book was in this collection as well. Again, another awesome Spider-Man Juggernaut cover. Two very popular characters that don't really meet up too often because Juggernaut's more of an X-Men guy, but I thought this was really cool. Definitely two of my favorite characters in the Marvel Universe. Then we're hopping up to number 256, another book I've talked about with some speculation recently. This is the first appearance of Puma, who is a Native American villain. Definitely one villain turned anti-hero, almost turned like hero basically at one point. But, definitely a character they could utilize to give some representation representation to the Native American community, which is really underrepresented in comic books. So definitely something that I think could be really cool. And the very next issue just happens to also be a key. It's got Puma on the cover, second appearance of Puma, but I think more importantly, this is the issue where Ned Leeds appears as the Hobgoblin, being mind controlled by the actual Hobgoblin, Roderick Kingsley. And given that we have Ned Leeds in the MCU, a lot of people have spec'd on this book, including myself. I've certainly bought a couple copies. A lot of people thought that in No Way Home, Ned was going to appear as Hobgoblin. I really didn't see that happening because we don't have a Hobgoblin yet. So the only situation I could really see is if he was being controlled by Green Goblin, but I digress. I think it could happen eventually in the MCU, but either way, got a great cover here and a nice little key as well. The very next issue, another key, and this one has certainly gotten some hype recently because it is a symbiote-related key, and all of those have been really hot the past couple years, especially with the release of both of the Venom movies, and a little hint that we're going to get some symbiote action in the MCU. This is Amazing Spider-Man 258, and this is the issue where they realize that the suit is an alien symbiote. They realize that it has a life of its own, and that's what it is. I believe that Reed Richards is the one that kind of discovers that little tidbit and shares it with Peter and some others. Skipping up, another book that has been really, really hot recently, Amazing Spider-Man 256. This is the first appearance of Silver Sable, and there's been rumors buzzing around that there's going to be a Silver Sable project again from Sony. We'll see if that happens, or we'll see if she comes to the MCU in some form. Really don't know. Everything is up in the air. Sony keeps putting out these movies that gain a lot of hype but don't really live up to it. So I'm a little concerned that that's going to keep happening because they keep making money off of these movies. So I don't know. I really hope that Sony eventually just signs things over to Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige does his magic. Anyway, moving on from Amazing Spider-Man, we're going to Fantastic Four. I am not sure why this book is so expensive. This is Fantastic Four number 150. It is the marriage of Quicksilver and Crystal. I don't know why that is so significant. Maybe you can tell me in the comment below. Maybe there's another key significance about this book that I'm not aware of. But, the high on Key Collector is $50, and I was really surprised to see that for this book. I thought, maybe it'd be like a $15 key, or maybe even $20. But no, it's listed that high, and eBay sales represent that. So maybe you can give me some more information. I'm not quite sure. I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan. Speaking of Fantastic Four, one of their big, backup side characters, Frankie Ray. Her first appearance is in this book right here, and I think this might be the first Crusader as well. Not that that really matters. The Frankie Ray first appearance is the one that people are speculating on for the MCU, as well as her first appearance as Nova, which was not in this collection. The Fantastic Four stuff stopped before that book. I think actually like 2 or 3 issues before. Anyway, we've got another Fantastic Four key here. Another one with some MCU speculation. This is the first appearance of Nicholas Scratch, who is the son of Agatha Harkness, who has already appeared in the MCU and is getting a spin-off show, a solo show called House of Harkness. That to me sounds like it's going to involve her family, her coven of witches, all that kind of stuff. So Nicholas Scratch definitely could be someone who is showing up. We'll have to wait and see. Next, we got Fantastic Four 205, first appearance of the Nova Corps. They've already shown up once, and they're certainly going to be back for more in the MCU going forward. We know for certain they're coming back, and certainly they announced a Nova thing recently, so obviously that's going to be even more Nova Corps action. Then we've got this book has been really talked about in the community. Very Gary is one of the people that's been blowing this book up, picking up copies, always talking about it as a spec book. Fantastic Four 211, the first appearance of Terrax. He's a Herald of Galactus. There is no doubt about it that Galactus will eventually show up in the MCU, especially given that we're getting the Fantastic Four sooner rather than later. So it makes sense to be speculating on some of Galactus's heralds, such as Silver Surfer, obviously the big one, but Terrax is definitely a solid choice as well. Moving on to the X-Men books, I'm going to plop these down here. You saw this in the beginning. One of my favorite, undervalued, in my opinion, X-Men keys to pick up. This is Uncanny X-Men 158. It is the second appearance of Rogue, her first appearance in the X-Men title, and has a fantastic cover of her punching Wolverine and knocking him back. Love, love, love this cover. This is after Rogue has gained the powers that she did from Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, or sorry, Miss Marvel, I guess at the time, Carol Danvers. Really love this book. I have a ton of copies that I'm holding on to. I think we're definitely going to see Rogue soon in the MCU. Next, we got X-Men 160, first appearance of Illyana Rasputin, Magic, as an adolescent, as, you know, someone who's growing older, using powers. We see her as a child before, but this is her, like, really her debut. She's not yet called Magic. That comes a little bit later. But, you know, we get a lot of her through New Mutants and X-Men during the 1980s. And this really kicks that off. Then we got X-Men number 161. This is an origin story of Magneto. There are a couple origin stories. This seems to be the most expensive kind of origin of Magneto from this time period, at least from the Claremont run. It's got a great cover too. Next, going back to some Carol Danvers stuff here, we got Uncanny X-Men 164, the first appearance of Carol Danvers as Binary. This is, when she comes out of the coma and she's, this is her new persona, all that stuff. A lot of people, including myself, are thinking this might be a good pickup for the future of the MCU if they want to keep that character around, beyond the movie The Marvels, which I personally think is going to see Rogue and Mystique show up. That's just a guess. Obviously, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but this could definitely be a good spec book if that does happen. Then we've got another Rogue book, 171. This is the issue where she joins the X-Men. Again, I think this is an underrated key. She's a very popular X-Men character, and I think they're really, really going to do her justice, make her a little bit more comic and maybe television show accurate. I know everyone loved that Rogue from the early 90s X-Men animated series. Certainly my favorite interpretation of the character. So let's hope that the MCU does something like that. Again, a book that I really like to pick up. Definitely going to stay in my PC/spec box for a while. Another book I've talked about as a speculation. There were a lot of these in here. X-Men number 184, first appearance of Forge. I've spoken about this very recently, actually. This was my last spec video where I talked about this book, as well as the next one, X-Men 191, first appearance of Nimrod. These are both lesser known, lesser valued characters who I do think could show up in the MCU at some point. Would be great, as X-Men characters, a villain, and Forge being a really nice backup character, a secondary tier X-Men. And I really think that both of those are undervalued and potentially really great books to pick up. Now we're down to the two big ones, and I want to remind you, I did say they were Amazing Spider-Man books. I want you to guess. I want you to think about what you saw, what kind of era of Amazing Spider-Man you saw, and what were the big ones. I will give you this hint. It is not the first appearance of Hobgoblin. I wish that was in there for some reason. I don't know if it's in this guy's other stuff or if these had already been bought, but there was no ASM 238 or 239. I was bummed about that, but I'll let you guess. Take 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see if you were right. We've got Amazing Spider-Man 210. You saw 209. You saw 212. Of course, there was going to be a 210 in there. This is the first appearance of Madam Web, a character who has always been a solid Spider-Man character and a decent key here, but definitely has gained a lot of traction recently with some rumors at first for the Sonyverse, and then some actual casting announcements. It seems that, I forget her name, she's from a bunch of things, including, I think, 50 Shades of Grey or something like that. She's been cast as Madam Web. Now, Madam Web in this version is older. but I think they're probably going to just utilize a younger version of Madam Web, maybe the second iteration. But nonetheless, this is still going to be a great key if that ends up happening. Now for the last one, this one's the big one, and it is so high grade. In fact, possibly a 9.6, 9.8 candidate. I definitely think, I would be surprised if this got less than a 9.4. We've got The Amazing Spider-Man number 252, one of my favorite books ever, one of my favorite homage covers ever, homaging Amazing Fantasy 15, Spider-Man's first appearance. It's the first appearance of Spider-Man in the classic black symbiote costume. You can't go wrong with this one. I have so many copies of this book that I've kind of been hoarding. I've sold a couple off, just to keep the cash flow, but man, I love this book. And this one is certainly the highest grade raw that I have ever picked up myself. Like I said, definitely at least a 9.4, probably 9.6, 9.8. So this is going to be a personal collection copy. I think I have a 9.2 right now is my highest grade. So this one will almost certainly beat that and possibly blow it out of the water with that 9.8. I am hoping, fingers crossed. I bet you're wondering how much I paid for all of this. Don't forget, it wasn't just this. It was these, 20 or so keys, plus over 150 other books, more minor keys, ones that are in the more of the $5 to $20 range. All of these have a value of about like $25 or more. And they're all high grade. Remember that. That's really important to remember when talking about the cost of this collection. I paid $500 for all of this, which might seem like a lot. No, $500, it's all of this and 150, lesser value and filler issue books. But again, they're all super high grade. There are, without a doubt, a bunch of 9.8s in there, which even for the filler issues of Amazing Spider-Man are decent books. 9.8s of 80s, early 80s filler issues still sell for over $100. So some of them are going to go off. This is going to take a while, but it's going to be really worth it in the long run, especially if this book right here gets, I think 9.6s are worth more than $500 as is. So I can break even on this one book. And if it gets a 9.8, I'm multiplying my money there already just off of one book. So I did pay a lot for this, but it was definitely worth it in the long run due to the high grade of the comic books. Now that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up for a like, leave a comment down below, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, I encourage you to do so. Make sure you ring that bell as well, turn the notifications on so you know when we're coming out with new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I know I haven't been every day recently, but I'm going to be back on track coming up, so look out for those. And until next time, turn the page, wash your hands.